The first thing I saw was my wife's name on a doctor's note, folded into a tight little square like it was trying to vanish, and right under her name was a line that made my throat close. Positive result. Follow-up required. Treatment plan attached. And in that exact second, I understood why she'd been acting like my voice was an ad she couldn't skip fast enough. And I also understood that whatever happened at that girls' party was not just too much wine and a sore head. It was a secret with teeth, and it had been sitting in my hallway, inside her tote bag. Like it paid rent, Tuesday morning had started normal, painfully normal, my coffee maker wheezing like it needed therapy, my work laptop doing that update. It always chooses at the worst time. The dog pacing and huffing because his walk schedule is more sacred than any marriage vow, and Mara's tote bag slumped by the entryway where she dropped it when she came back Sunday night, suitcase rolling, shoes in her hand, hair pinned up like she'd slept in a car. She had said, "Hey, I'm back," in the same tone people use to announce a weather update. Then she kissed the air near my cheek, not my cheek, and drifted past me like I was a lamp. I had tried to joke. Did you miss me or just miss the mattress? And she had given me this look that wasn't anger exactly. More like she was calculating how many words she had to spend to get through the evening. Then she said, "I'm exhausted," and disappeared into the bathroom with her phone. The shower ran forever, and when she came out, she wore that oversized hoodie she only wears when she's not in the mood to be perceived. She ate 2 crackers, told the dog, "Hi, buddy," in a voice sweeter than the one she used on me, and went to bed facing the wall. I figured fine, 2 days with her friends. Jenna's crew can turn brunch into an Olympic event. She probably needed sleep. Monday she worked from home, door closed, and when I asked if she wanted lunch, she said, "I already ate." Which was weird because the fridge was untouched, and when I leaned in for a hug, she angled her shoulder like I was a stranger asking for a photo. Tuesday she left early, no kiss, no goodbye, just a quick, "I'll be late." And the door clicked like a final answer. I tried not to spiral. I'm not the jealous guy who checks locations and counts minutes. I'm the guy who believes what he's told until reality drags me by the collar. But the vibe in our house had changed. It wasn't quiet like peace. It was quiet like someone holding their breath. The only thing she talked about was the party, but even that sounded edited. She'd said it was at a cabin outside town, just girls, hot tub, wine, Jenna's new sound system. She laughed once and told me they did tarot cards, and when I asked, "What did the cards say about us?" she blinked too long, then said, "Don't start," and I actually apologized, like I'd stepped on a landmine she forgot to warn me about. So Tuesday morning, while the coffee dripped and the dog stared at me like I was failing him personally, I picked up her tote bag to move it off the floor. Just a practical thing. Husband housekeeping, and it was heavier than it should have been. I thought maybe she had brought back snacks or those tiny travel bottles she collects. I opened it to grab her water bottle, and there it was. A cream-colored paper-clipped packet. The kind clinics use when they don't want to spend money on fancy folders. I'm not proud of what I did next. I'm also not going to pretend I'm some saint with a perfect moral compass. I pulled it out because my brain went, "Why does your wife have a clinic packet?" And my hands moved before my principles could catch up. At the top was a logo from a women's health office I recognized because we'd driven past it 100 times. The date was the day after she got back, Monday, and I remembered she'd said she ran errands. I unfolded the note. My eyes snagged on the words I didn't want to understand. Diagnosis. Lab-confirmed infection. Notify partner. Refrain from intimacy until cleared. My ears started ringing like someone had turned on a kettle inside my skull. I read it again, slower, like changing the speed would change the meaning. And my first thought was, maybe it's old. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's Jenna's. But the name line was hers. Full legal name. The one her bank uses. The one you only write when you mean business. And taped to the back was a little instruction sheet. 2 prescriptions, one filled at a pharmacy near Jenna's neighborhood. I sat down on the bench by the door. The dog nudged my knee, and I petted him automatically, like my body was trying to keep at least one thing in the world normal. And then my phone buzzed with a text from Mara. "Running late, don't wait up." And I stared at it and felt this strange, icy calm. Not sadness yet. Not rage yet. Just clarity, like my brain finally put subtitles on a movie I'd been watching without sound. She hadn't been tired. She'd been careful. She hadn't been quiet. She'd been hiding, and the cabin story suddenly felt like a stage set. Pretty, believable, and completely fake. I put the papers back exactly how I found them. I didn't crumple them. I didn't photograph them. I didn't do anything dramatic, because the version of me that panics loses, and I wasn't going to lose in my own house. I washed my coffee mug, I clipped the dog's leash on, and as we stepped outside into the cold, bright morning, I realized I wasn't just walking the dog. I was walking myself away from denial and toward whatever truth Mara thought she could keep zipped up in a tote bag by the door. I didn't confront her that night. Not because I was scared of her, but because I needed the kind of calm that makes liars trip over their own shoelaces. So I cooked dinner like a man who didn't just read a sentence that rearranged his whole life. Pasta, garlic, the works. And when Mara came in after 9, she didn't even look at the stove. She looked straight past me like I was part of the cabinetry. She said, "I'm not hungry," and headed for the bedroom. And I watched her shoulders, tight, guarded, like she was bracing for impact. I followed with a neutral voice. "Hey, everything okay?" And she gave me this quick smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yep, just wiped." Then she added, "Don't make it a thing." Which was interesting because I hadn't made anything a thing. Yet, I sat at the table alone, twirled pasta I couldn't taste, and listened to the bedroom door click. Not slam, click. The sound of someone choosing distance very carefully. Later she emerged for water, phone glued to her hand, screen tilted away from me like it was classified information. I said, "How was Jenna's cabin?" And she flinched so fast it was almost impressive. Like her nervous system answered before her mouth did. "Fine, fun," she said. Then, "Why are you interrogating me?" I blinked, because that word, interrogating, meant her brain was already living in a courtroom. I kept my face smooth, not even a raised eyebrow. I just missed you." She stared at me for a beat, then slid back into the bedroom, and I stood in the kitchen staring at the sink like it had answers. The papers in the tote bag weren't just proof of an infection. They were proof of a timeline. Monday appointment, prescriptions filled near Jenna's neighborhood, and that meant Mara didn't just come home tired. She came home, then immediately did damage control, and that meant she already knew what she'd done, and she knew what it could do to me. I slept on my side of the bed that night, not touching her. Not because I was punishing her, but because the note said notify partner, and I wasn't about to be a volunteer in my own betrayal. She didn't say a word about the space between us. She just turned her back like it was the default setting now. In the morning, I waited until she left. Then I opened the tote again, fast, practiced, like I'd done it 100 times. I checked for anything else. Receipts, a bracelet from the party, a cabin key. Something that screamed, "Here's your smoking gun." Instead, I found a small pharmacy stapled receipt, folded into the corner of an old makeup pouch, and the timestamp hit me harder than I expected. Monday at 2:16 p.m., so while I thought she was running errands, she was standing under fluorescent lights, buying something she never planned to tell me about. I took a photo of the receipt. Silent, no flash. Put everything back the same. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called the clinic number off the header. I didn't pretend to be her. I'm not that guy. I just asked what their policy was on notifying partners, and the receptionist's tone turned careful. She said they encourage patients to inform partners and they provide counseling. She couldn't confirm anything about Mara, of course, but I didn't need confirmation. I already had her name on paper. What I needed was my next move. So I called Jenna, because if this was truly a girls' weekend, Jenna would be relaxed, chatty. She'd tell me about the hot tub and the tarot and the inevitable group photo where everyone holds a drink like they invented joy. She answered on the third ring, voice bright. "Hey," and I said, "Hey, just checking in." Mara seemed wiped after the cabin. You guys go too hard? Jenna laughed. Too hard, always. Then she paused, like she was searching for a script, and added, but yeah, it was chill. Just us. I kept it light. I said, did you take pics? Mara didn't show me any? Another pause. Longer, she said. Oh, I think some people were trying to be off camera. You know, privacy vibes. And my stomach did that slow drop again. Because girls' weekends don't come with privacy vibes unless there's something to hide. I said. Who was there again? Jenna said names fast, like she'd rehearsed them. Then she rushed. Anyway, I'm running into a meeting. Talk later, and hung up. She didn't even fake a goodbye. The call ended, and I stared at my phone. Because that pause, that weird scramble, it wasn't protective of Mara's feelings. It was protective of Jenna's own involvement. Like she was holding the door for a secret to run through. That afternoon, Mara texted, "Can we not be weird tonight?" And I almost laughed, because she wasn't asking if I was okay. She was asking me to keep playing my role. I replied, sure. And then I sat in my car after work, not starting the engine, looking at the photo of the receipt. And I realized I needed one more piece before I spoke. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted the truth to have nowhere to hide. And the twist was, the truth was already leaking out. In pauses, in flinches, in the way my wife suddenly treated my questions like threats. By Wednesday, I was running on a new fuel, quiet focus, like I'd switched from heartbreak to investigation mode. I smiled at coworkers, answered emails, did my job, but every spare second, my brain replayed the same montage. Mara coming home Sunday night like she'd been chased, her phone angled away, Jenna's weird pauses, the clinic date on Monday, and that little sentence on the note. Notify partner, like it was a polite suggestion instead of a moral requirement. I didn't want to explode. Explosions make smoke, and smoke gives people cover. I wanted light. So I started with the most boring truth finder on earth. Calendars, Mara and I shared one. Mostly for dentist appointments and the dog's vet visits. I checked the weekend she was gone. It said, Jenna Cabin Girls. I checked Jenna's public page out of curiosity. Not because I'm proud. And there it was. A story highlight from the same weekend. Glow-up retreat. And the thumbnail wasn't a cabin. It was a downtown hotel lobby with a neon sign and a velvet rope. I felt my eyebrow lift on its own, because either Jenna had two simultaneous events, or Mara's cabin had valet parking and a chandelier. I clicked through the highlight and saw quick flashes, cocktails, a DJ booth, a wall of balloons, someone's hand holding up a room key card like it was a trophy, no faces fully clear, lots of angles that conveniently avoided identifying anyone. Privacy vibes, right? I screenshot the one frame that mattered, the hotel name reflected in a mirror behind the balloons, and I sat there staring at it. Because it was not outside town. It was the kind of place people go when they want to be seen, or when they want to disappear in a crowd. That night I kept my voice soft. I said, hey, I saw Jenna posted stuff from the weekend. Looked fun. I didn't say hotel yet. I let her volunteer it. Mara's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She chewed nothing, then swallowed hard. She said, Jenna posts everything. It's annoying, I asked. Was it at a hotel too, or did she just add that? And her eyes snapped up, sharp, defensive, she said. What are you talking about? It was the cabin. I nodded like I believed her. Okay. I just thought I saw, never mind. And the relief that flickered across her face made me feel sick, because it told me she knew exactly what I was circling. Later she went to shower, and I did the thing I never wanted to become. I checked the tote bag again, not because I enjoyed it, but because it had turned into the only place she was accidentally honest. This time there was something new, a folded hotel receipt tucked under the lining, like she'd missed it. The date matched the weekend, 2 nights, and the name on the room was not Mara's. It was Jenna's, plus one additional guest. And the kicker. The room had an extra key issued at 1:12 a.m. My mouth went dry. Because you don't get an extra key at 1:12 a.m. for a pillow, I took a photo and put it back, my hands steady, my heart not. I stood in the hallway and listened to the shower water roar. And I realized I didn't just need to ask Mara what happened. I needed to decide what I would accept. Because if she could look me in the face and call a hotel a cabin, she could probably call anything, anything. And the scariest part was how normal she tried to act afterward. She came out in her hoodie, climbed into bed, and finally, she reached for my hand, like a peace offering, like a reset button. Her fingers were warm, her grip too deliberate, and I stared at our hands and thought, this is not love, this is containment. I didn't pull away. I let her hold my hand while my brain did math, infection note plus hotel receipt plus extra key plus Jenna acting like a nervous PR manager, and it all pointed to one question. Who was the extra person? Because I was starting to suspect the betrayal wasn't random, it was organized. And if it was organized, then someone in our circle knew. Someone smiled at me, asked how work was, maybe even hugged me while this was happening, and I wasn't sure which hurt more, the act itself, or the fact that they thought I was the kind of man who would never notice the details. Thursday morning, I woke up to Mara already dressed, full face of makeup, hair done like she was going on stage, not to her office, and she kissed my forehead like you do to a kid you're sending to school. Quick, careful, not intimate. I watched her grab her phone and purse, and she hesitated at the tote bag by the door. Her eyes flicked to it, then away, and I almost admired the discipline, almost. She left with a breezy, "Love you," that sounded like a voicemail greeting the second the door shut. I exhaled and made a choice. I wasn't going to keep collecting scraps like a raccoon behind my own marriage. I needed a straight line to the truth. So I called in sick. Not dramatic. Just a simple, not feeling great. Which was technically true. Then I drove to the hotel from Jenna's highlight. The one with the chandelier and the velvet rope. And I parked across the street like I was waiting for someone. Because I sat there watching people come and go. Business suits, tourists, a couple arguing quietly by the valet stand. And while I waited, my brain did this annoying thing where it tried to rationalize. Maybe Jenna booked rooms for everyone. Maybe Mara got sick from a public hot tub. Maybe the note meant something else. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Jenna. "Hey, random, are you okay?" Mara said you seem off, and I laughed. A real laugh, because the network was already activated. She told Jenna I seemed off, and Jenna was checking to see if the fence was wobbling. I replied, "All good, just busy." And I kept my eyes on the lobby doors. Around noon, a familiar car pulled up to the valet, not Mara's, but one I knew like the back of my hand, my brother's, Ethan's gray sedan with the dented rear bumper he refuses to fix because, character, he likes to say. My stomach didn't drop. It froze. Like my body didn't want to believe what my eyes were reporting. Ethan stepped out wearing a clean button-down, new haircut, the kind of effort he makes when he wants to impress. He handed the keys to the valet like he owned the place. Then he walked inside without looking around, like he'd done it before. I sat there gripping my steering wheel, feeling stupid for not seeing how the puzzle pieces could fit this way. Ethan and Mara had been friendly for years. Too friendly sometimes. The inside jokes, the long conversations at family dinners. Mara defending him when my mom complained about his drifting job situation. Me thinking, wow, she's sweet. She believes in people. No, she believed in him. I sat for 10 minutes, breathing slow. Because if I marched in there and made a scene, Ethan would turn it into a comedy. He'd gaslight, he'd charm, he'd make me look unstable, so I stayed in my car and did something colder. I opened our family group chat, the one with my mom, my dad, Ethan, me, and Mara, and I scrolled back to the weekend. Mara had sent a selfie of her and Jenna, faces close, big smiles, caption, cabin vibes. Meanwhile, Ethan had sent nothing all weekend, which was unusual because he posts constantly. Memes, food, his dog, his new business ideas. Silence from him suddenly looked less like being busy and more like being unavailable. I checked my own texts with Ethan. The weekend he told me he was doing a delivery gig out of town, and I remembered thinking, responsible, good for him. Now I remembered he never said where. Just out of town, convenient. I watched the lobby doors again, and an hour later, Ethan walked out holding a paper bag from the hotel cafe, relaxed, smug. He looked at his phone, smiled, then typed, and my phone buzzed. A new text from Mara, thinking about you, heart emoji. I stared at it, because the timing was too perfect. Like someone had just told her, he's still clueless, keep him sweet. And something in me went quiet, not numb, just resolved. I drove home before either of them could spot my car, and I spent the rest of the afternoon setting the table like it was a normal night. Candles, her favorite sparkling water, music low, the whole cozy husband package. Because if Mara walked into calm, she'd relax, and relaxed people slip. She came home and her eyes softened for the first time all week. She said, "Wow, what's the occasion?" And I smiled and said, "No occasion. I just wanted us to have a good night." She exhaled like she'd been holding tension in her ribs. She sat, she ate, she even laughed at one of my jokes. And in the middle of that laugh, I asked, casually, "How's Ethan been?" And the way her fork paused in midair told me everything. She tried to recover, she said, "Fine." Why? And I sipped my drink like I was making small talk. No reason. I just saw his car model near that hotel downtown today, the chandelier one, thought it was him. And Mara's face did this tiny flicker, not guilt exactly, more like panic catching up to makeup. She swallowed and said, "Huh? Weird. Ethan hates downtown," and I nodded like, sure. And inside I thought, "You're lying so fast, you didn't even check if that lie made sense. Because Ethan loves downtown when he's playing someone's secret. And now I had my twist. Not a stranger, not a random mistake, but family. And I realized the betrayal wasn't just about what happened at a party. It was about how many people could look at me, smile, and still keep the door closed on the truth. Friday, I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I scheduled an STI test for myself. Because dignity looks like protecting your health, even when your heart wants to set something on fire. Then I invited Ethan over for a catch-up. And I texted Jenna too. Group message, casual, beer and pizza at my place. Felt like being social. The trap was simple. People lie best when they think they're safe. They lie worst when they have to coordinate in real time. Ethan arrived first, loud, joking, clapping my shoulder, and Mara watched him like a hawk pretending to be a wife. Jenna showed up with that tight smile, and the moment they all sat down, I pulled Mara's tote bag onto the table, unzipped it, and slid the clinic note forward like a playing card. I said, "Explain this." Mara went white, Jenna's eyes darted. Ethan's grin broke in half. And for the first time all week, the house was silent for the right reason. Ethan tried to speak first, like he could narrate his way out of consequences. But I held up my hand, calm, not shaking, not loud, just final. Mara stared at the note like it was a grenade. Then she snapped at Jenna. "You told him, didn't you?" And Jenna blurted, "I didn't, I swear," which was funny because nobody had accused her of anything yet. Ethan cleared his throat and said, "Bro, it's not what you think." And I laughed once, dry, because that line should come with a stamp card, 10 uses and you get a free lie. I said, "I saw you at the hotel." Mara flinched, Ethan's face tightened, and Jenna whispered, "Oh my God," like she just realized I wasn't the easy one. Mara finally spoke, voice small but sharp. "It was one time. I was drunk, I was upset, you've been distant," and I nodded like I was hearing a weather report. Then I said, "You went to a doctor Monday, you lied about a cabin, you ignored me for days, and you brought this into our home. Don't call that one time. Call it a campaign," Ethan muttered. "We were going to tell you." And I looked at him, my own brother, and said, "When after I got sick, after you two decided the story you liked best." Jenna started crying, saying she thought it was just flirting, that Mara said we were basically over, and Mara snapped, "Shut up." And in that messy moment, I saw the truth. Mara didn't just cheat. She recruited. She curated lies. And Ethan didn't just betray me. He enjoyed the role, So I stood up, pushed my chair back gently, and said, "Everyone out now." Mara's eyes widened, like she couldn't believe I was ending the scene without her permission. But I walked to the door and held it open, silent, steady, and they filed out one by one. Jenna sobbing, Ethan angry, Mara stunned, and when the door shut, the quiet finally felt like mine. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house with coffee and the kind of calm that scares people. I told them everything, facts only, the note, the hotel, Ethan, and my mom went pale while my dad just stared at the wall like he was trying not to combust. I didn't ask them to pick sides. I told them my boundary. Ethan doesn't contact me. Mara doesn't come to family events through me. Then I went home, packed a bag for Mara without being cruel. Essentials, charger, toiletries. And I left it by the door with the clinic note on top like a receipt. She came back from work and saw it. She tried to talk, to cry, to rewrite. But I kept it simple. I already booked my test. I already called a lawyer. And I already changed the guest code. She whispered, "Please." And I said, "You should have said please before you risked my health." Then I opened the door and held it. The same way I did the night before. Not dramatic, not violent, just done. And as she walked out, I realized the twist wasn't that she cheated. It was that I didn't have to beg for honesty. I just had to stop participating in the lie.